My fiancée Chloe always called herself a little chaotic, like it was cute. Even during wedding planning, she'd lose things, forget dates, make jokes about being a mess. I believed it. I told myself love meant patience, and patience meant smiling through small problems. I never thought her chaos would cost me 80 grand. She calls herself quirky. I call it disaster with glitter. The night of her bachelorette party, I stayed home with the seating chart and a bottle of cheap champagne, trying to feel grateful. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was her. No call, no warning, just a text like she was ordering food. Accidentally slept with my ex. We're getting back together and I am keeping the ring for the future. I stared at the screen until the words stopped looking real. Accidentally. Like you trip and fall into a bed. Like you wake up married to your ex by mistake. My hands went cold, but my mind got strangely quiet. In that quiet, I realized something simple. She didn't just betray me. She expected me to fund the betrayal and smile about it. So I replied with one word. Thanks. Not because I forgave her. Because she had just given me clarity. The ring wasn't a symbol anymore. It was a receipt. I'm Jack Rourke, 32 years old, and I work specialty insurance claims. That means I investigate fraud for a living. I know how to find things people want to hide, and I know how to make problems very expensive for very stupid people. Turns out, chaos is great for insurance fraud. Too bad this isn't fraud, just stupidity. I opened my laptop, pulled up the purchase documents, and checked the financing. She had insisted the ring be in her name for insurance reasons, and I had agreed because I trusted her. That detail turned out to be the only gift she ever gave me. The ring cost $80,000. Custom designed, princess cut, platinum setting. Chloe had picked it out herself, insisted on the most expensive option. We only get married once, she'd said, batting her eyelashes. Make it count. Well, she was right about one thing. We were only getting married once, because it wasn't happening. I forwarded the $80,000 ring bill to her email and attached the payment schedule with her name highlighted. Then I sent a second email to the jeweler confirming the account holder and requesting all documentation in writing. After that, I emailed my lawyer, attached her text, and wrote, "Start the process." 5 minutes later, my phone exploded with calls. I let them go to voicemail. Then the text started coming. "Jack, please pick up. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. We can work this out. Don't be crazy." Crazy. That was rich, coming from someone who just torched a 3-year relationship via text message. My neighbor, Mrs. Gallagher, knocked on my door around 1 a.m. She's 78 years old and the biggest gossip in our building. Also sharp as a tack. "Jack, honey, is everything all right? I heard some commotion." "Just relationship troubles, Mrs. G. Nothing to worry about." She studied my face with those bright blue eyes. "Well, if you need anything, you know where to find me. And Jack? Sometimes the trash takes itself out." After she left, I sat in my kitchen and thought about Matt Connolly, Chloe's high school ex. I'd met him exactly once, at a barbecue 2 years ago. Classic bad boy type. Leather jacket, motorcycle, owns a mechanic shop on the wrong side of town. The kind of guy who thinks rules are suggestions and commitment is a dirty word. Chloe had always insisted they were just friends now. Said she'd outgrown that phase of her life. Apparently, she'd been lying about that too. My phone rang again. This time it was Sophie, Chloe's maid of honor and professional social media queen. I decided to answer. "Jack, thank God. Listen, Chloe's having a breakdown. She says you sent her some kind of bill?" "The ring bill. It's in her name." "But Jack, that's not fair. You can't just—" "Sophie, let me stop you right there. Your best friend just texted me that she's leaving me for her ex and keeping an $80,000 ring. You want to talk about fair?" Silence. Then, "She was drunk, Jack. People make mistakes when they're drunk. Funny thing about drunk people, Sophie. They tell the truth." I hung up and turned off my phone. Outside, it started to rain. The next morning, I called my best friend Ray Murphy. Ray's a bouncer at Flanagan's Irish pub downtown, 6'4" with hands like baseball mitts, and a dry sense of humor that matches mine. If you need someone to watch your back or help you move a body, Ray's your guy. Not that we were moving any bodies. Yet. Jesus, Jack. She really sent that in a text? Screenshot's on my phone if you want to see it. Nah, I believe you. Chloe always struck me as the type to burn down a house and blame the matches. So what's the plan? I was sitting in Flanagan's at 10 in the morning, nursing a coffee and watching Ray wipe down glasses. The place was empty except for one old-timer reading a newspaper and muttering about the weather. Honestly, I'm making it up as I go. But she wanted chaos, so I'm giving her chaos, the expensive kind. Ray grinned. I like where this is going. What do you need? Information, and maybe some moral support while I ruin her life. Brother, I thought you'd never ask. Ray had connections all over the city. Bartenders, cops, mechanics, city workers, the kind of people who see everything and remember everything. Within an hour, he'd made 3 phone calls and had a complete rundown on Matt Connolly's operation. Your boy Matty's got problems, Ray said, sliding a beer across the bar even though it was barely noon. His shop's behind on taxes, he's got unpaid debts all over town, and word is he's been running some side businesses that ain't exactly legal. What kind of side businesses? The kind where cars go in whole and come out in pieces, if you catch my drift. A chop shop, of course. Chloe always did have excellent taste in men. There's more, Ray continued. Matty's been bragging around town about stealing the bride. Apparently he thinks this whole thing is hilarious. My jaw clenched. Does he now? Yeah. And get this, he's been planning this for months. One of the guys at Murphy's garage heard him talking about it back in February. This wasn't some drunken mistake, Jack. This was a setup. The beer in my hand suddenly tasted like poison. February. That was when Chloe started going to more girls' nights. When she became protective of her phone. When she started picking fights about stupid things, like I was annoying her just by existing. That son of a bitch played me. They both did. Question is, what are you going to do about it? I thought about it while Ray served the old-timer another drink. Through the window, I could see normal people living their normal lives, going to work, running errands, not having their entire existence blown up by a text message. I'm going to visit Chloe's office, return some of her stuff. Ray raised an eyebrow. What stuff? Her engagement ring receipt. I'm sure her boss would love to know why his star employee is suddenly all over social media talking about new beginnings and following your heart. Chloe worked at Pinnacle Creative, a trendy advertising agency downtown, the kind of place where everyone wears designer clothes and drinks kombucha and talks about disrupting the marketplace. Her boss, David Sterling, was exactly what you'd expect. Slick hair, expensive suit, and an obsession with the company's image. I walked into the office at 2 o'clock wearing my best suit and carrying a manila envelope. The receptionist, a 20-something blonde with too much makeup, looked up nervously. Hi, I'm Jack Rourke. I need to speak with David Sterling about Chloe Matthews. Is she expecting you? No, but he'll want to see me. Trust me. 5 minutes later, I was sitting in Sterling's glass office overlooking the city. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with the kind of confident smile that comes from never having real problems. So, Jack, what can I do for you? Chloe mentioned you two were having some difficulties. I slid the envelope across his desk. She mentioned that, did she? What else did she mention? Sterling opened the envelope and pulled out the ring receipt, Chloe's breakup text printed on company letterhead, and a printout of her Instagram post from that morning. A photo of her and Matt with the caption, "Sometimes you have to follow your heart, even when it's scary." New beginnings. Narba, authentic, lar blessed. His face went white as he read. Mr. Rourke, I'm not sure what you expect me to do with this. Nothing. Just thought you should know that your employee is currently trending on social media for abandoning her fiancé via text message and stealing an $80,000 ring. Might affect that family values campaign you're running for the Henderson account. Sterling's confident smile evaporated. Pinnacle Creative had just landed a huge contract with Henderson Family Foods, a conservative company that specialized in wholesome family products. Their entire marketing strategy was built around traditional values and moral integrity. This is unfortunate, Sterling said carefully. Unfortunate is getting rained on. This is a public relations nightmare waiting to happen. But hey, not my problem anymore. I stood up to leave, then turned back. Oh, and David? You might want to check Chloe's expense reports from the last 6 months. I have a feeling some of those client dinners weren't actually with clients. I left Sterling's office with a spring in my step. By the time I reached the parking garage, my phone was buzzing with angry texts from Chloe. Apparently, Sterling had called her into his office for an urgent conversation. You bastard! How could you do this to me? I'm going to lose my job because of you. This is insane. You're ruining my life, I typed back. You ruined your own life. I'm just making sure you pay for it. Then I drove to Matt's garage. Connolly's Auto Repair sat on a corner lot in the industrial district, surrounded by chain-link fence and looking like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. The sign was faded, half the letters were missing, and there were at least 6 cars in various states of disassembly scattered around the lot. I parked across the street and watched for a while. Through the open bay doors, I could see Matt working on a red Camaro, his crew of 2 guys standing around drinking beer and laughing. Real professional operation. At 6 o'clock, the crew left, and Matt was alone. That's when I made my move. I walked across the street and into the garage like I owned the place. Matt looked up from under the hood of the Camaro, wiping his hands on a greasy rag. Up close, he was smaller than I remembered, maybe 5'9", with the kind of wiry build that comes from manual labor and too much coffee. Help you with something? Yeah, I think you can. I'm Jack Rourke, Chloe's ex-fiancé. His face lit up with a cocky grin. Oh, right. Jack, Chloe told me about you, said you were taking the breakup pretty hard. I'm managing. Nice place you got here. Very authentic. Matt gestured around the garage like he was showing off a mansion. Built it from nothing. Chloe always said she missed being with a guy who actually works with his hands. Is that what she said? Interesting. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you work with other people's cars. The kind that come in with VIN numbers and leave without them. The grin disappeared. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It means I know about your side business, Maddie, and I know you're behind on your taxes, and I know you've been planning this little reunion with Chloe for months. Matt stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. You don't know shit. I know you owe the city $43,000 in back taxes. I know you've got 3 liens against this property, and I know that red Camaro you're working on was reported stolen in Springfield last week. That last part was a bluff, but the way Matt's face went pale told me I'd hit close to home. You can't prove anything. Maybe not, but I don't have to prove anything. I just have to make a phone call to the right people and let them prove it for me. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. Let's see. Insurance fraud hotline is 1-800. Matt lunged forward and knocked the phone out of my hand. Don't even think about it. There it is, the real Matt Connolly. Not so charming when someone fights back, are you? You think you're so smart with your fancy job and your fancy clothes. Chloe's with me now because I'm real. I don't hide behind some desk-pushing papers. You're right, Maddie. You don't hide behind a desk. You hide behind stolen cars and forged titles. Much more authentic. He shoved me hard in the chest. I stumbled back but kept my balance. Walk away, Jack. Chloe made her choice. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Oh, I'm not making anything hard, Maddie, but your life's about to get a lot more interesting. I picked up my phone and headed for the door. Give Chloe my best. Tell her I said the ring looks great on her. Hope she enjoys paying for it. As I reached my car, I heard Matt yelling behind me. You think you're better than me? You think your money makes you better than me? I rolled down my window. No, Maddie. My money doesn't make me better than you. My brain does. I drove away with Matt standing in his garage doorway, fists clenched, looking like a man who'd just realized he'd bitten off more than he could chew. 20 minutes later, I was back at Flanagan's, telling Ray about my conversation with the happy couple. So what's next? Ray asked, sliding another beer across the bar. Now I make some phone calls. See how much trouble I can cause for our friend Maddie. And Chloe? I thought about that. Chloe was the one who'd started this whole mess, but she was also the one who'd given me all the ammunition I needed to finish it. Her name on the ring documents, her public social media posts, her sloppy paperwork from the wedding planning. It was like she'd built her own funeral pyre and handed me the matches. Chloe's going to learn that chaos has consequences, and consequences cost money. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Gallagher. Saw Chloe's car in the parking lot. She's upstairs crying and making a lot of noise. Thought you should know. I showed the text to Ray. Looks like reality's starting to set in. You gonna talk to her? Eventually. But first, I'm going to make sure she has plenty to cry about. I spent the next hour making phone calls. Anonymous tip to the State Insurance Fraud Division about suspicious activity at Connolly's Auto Repair. Anonymous tip to the tax assessor's office about unreported income. Anonymous tip to the police about possible stolen vehicles. I was careful, professional, and completely untraceable. Just a concerned citizen reporting suspicious activity. The kind of thing that happens every day. By 9 o'clock, I'd set enough wheels in motion to keep Matt busy for the next 6 months. And I was just getting started. The next morning brought a call from my lawyer, Patricia Chen. Patricia's been handling my legal affairs for 5 years, ever since I bought my condo. She's smart, ruthless, and completely unimpressed by other people's drama. Jack, I've reviewed the documents you sent. The ring financing is definitely in Chloe's name, so legally she's responsible for the payments. But there's more. What do you mean? I mean, she signed a lot of things during your wedding planning. Venue contracts, catering agreements, photographer deposits. Most of them list her as the primary contact and financial responsible party. I felt a slow smile spreading across my face. How much are we talking about? Total? About $130,000. She's on the hook for all of it. And if she can't pay? Then her credit gets destroyed, and the vendors can pursue legal action for breach of contract. Some of these deposits are non-refundable, Jack. She's in serious trouble. After I hung up with Patricia, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and thinking about karma. Chloe had always been careless with paperwork, signing things without reading them, letting other people handle the details. She'd trusted me to take care of everything, and I had. I'd made sure every contract was legally binding and every signature was hers. At the time, I'd thought I was protecting us both. Now I realized I'd been building a trap, and Chloe had just walked into it. My phone rang. It was Sophie, Chloe's maid of honor, and she sounded panicked. Jack, please, you have to help. Chloe's having a complete breakdown. She got fired yesterday, and now all these bills are coming in, and she doesn't know what to do. She got fired? That's terrible. What happened? Don't play dumb. You know what happened. You went to her office and showed her boss that stuff about Matt. I just returned some personal items. Not my fault if David Sterling has a problem with his employees' life choices. Jack, please, I know you're hurt, but this is going too far. She made a mistake, but she doesn't deserve to have her whole life destroyed. Sophie, let me ask you something. Did you know about Matt? Silence. Did you know she was planning to leave me? More silence. That's what I thought. So don't call me asking for help when you were part of the problem. Jack, wait. I hung up. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I saw a photo of Chloe and Matt at some bar, laughing and holding drinks. The message said, "Having a great time? Thanks for the freedom." Matt. Had to be. The idiot was taunting me. I forwarded the photo to Patricia with a note. Evidence of defendant's financial irresponsibility while defaulting on legal obligations. Then I got dressed and drove to the city courthouse. The clerk at the civil records office was a middle-aged woman named Janet who'd been there for 20 years. I'd dealt with her before on insurance cases, and she knew I was legitimate. What can I do for you today, Mr. Rourke? I need to file a formal complaint about suspected tax evasion and business license violations. Also need to request a financial audit for a local business. Janet handed me the forms. This about that auto shop that's been causing problems? You know about Connolly's. Honey, everyone knows about Connolly's. We've been waiting for someone to file a formal complaint so we could investigate. That place has been a problem for years. I spent 2 hours filling out paperwork, providing documentation, and making sworn statements. By the time I left the courthouse, Matt Connolly was going to have a very bad week. But I wasn't done. My next stop was the bank where Chloe and I had our joint accounts. I'd already moved my money out, but I wanted to make sure there were no loose ends. The branch manager, Mr. Peterson, was sympathetic when I explained the situation. I'm sorry to hear about your breakup, Mr. Rourke. What can we do to help? I need to make sure all joint accounts are properly closed and that I'm not liable for any debts she might incur. Of course, let me pull up your accounts. Peterson frowned at his computer screen. Mr. Rourke, it looks like Ms. Matthews attempted to access your joint savings account yesterday, but the transaction was denied due to insufficient funds. How much did she try to withdraw? $50,000. I laughed out loud. She tried to steal $50,000 from an empty account? The account was closed per your instructions on Tuesday, so there was nothing to withdraw. But the attempted transaction is on record. Can I get a copy of that record? Absolutely. I left the bank with documentation of Chloe's attempted theft, feeling better than I had in days. She wasn't just careless anymore. She was desperate. That evening, I was at home when someone started pounding on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Chloe standing in the hallway, still wearing her work clothes but looking disheveled and frantic. Jack, I know you're in there. Open the door. I opened it but left the chain lock engaged. What do you want, Chloe? I want to talk. Please, just give me 5 minutes. She looked terrible. Her makeup was smeared, her hair was a mess, and she'd been crying. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You've got 2 minutes. Talk. Jack, this has gone too far. I made a mistake, okay? I was drunk and confused, and I did something stupid. But you're destroying my life. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just not cleaning up your mess anymore. Please, I'll break up with Matt. I'll give you back the ring. We can work this out. Chloe, you tried to steal $50,000 from our joint account yesterday. Her face went white. I wasn't stealing. I just needed some money to pay bills. Bills that are in your name because you signed the contracts. You tricked me into signing those. I tricked you. Chloe, you insisted on being the primary contact for everything. You said it was feminist to have the woman handle the wedding planning. She started crying again. Jack, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me paying for your mistakes. There's a difference. I started to close the door, but she put her hand against it. What do you want from me? What do I have to do to make this right? I looked at her for a long moment. 3 years of my life. 3 years of believing her lies, enabling her chaos, cleaning up her messes. 3 years of thinking love meant being a doormat. You want to make this right? Pay your bills, all of them. Take responsibility for your choices, and leave me alone. I closed the door and turned the deadbolt. She stood outside for another 10 minutes, alternately crying and yelling, before finally giving up and leaving. The next morning, Mrs. Gallagher knocked on my door with a cup of coffee and a knowing smile. Heard quite a commotion last night, dear. Sorry about that, Mrs. G. Won't happen again? Oh, don't apologize. Best entertainment I've had in months. That girl's got some nerve. I'll give her that. She's got something, all right. Mrs. Gallagher leaned closer conspiratorially. You know, I've lived in this building for 40 years, seen a lot of people come and go. And I can tell you, the ones who blame everyone else for their problems never change. They just find new people to blame. Wise words? Stick to your guns, Jack. Some people need to learn the hard way. After she left, I made another call to Ray. How's our friend Matty doing? Funny you should ask. Word is the city inspector showed up at his shop yesterday, and the state police, and the IRS. All in one day? That's unfortunate. Yeah, real unfortunate. Shop's been shut down pending investigation. Matty's running around town trying to find a lawyer who'll take his case. And Chloe? Living with him in that ratty apartment above the garage. Must be real romantic. I felt a deep satisfaction settling in my chest. Ray, I think it's time for the final act. What did you have in mind? Remember that fancy hotel where we were supposed to have our reception? The Grand View? Yeah, what about it? They're having a wedding there this Saturday. Big society event. Lots of important people. So? So I think Chloe and Matt might want to crash the party. Show everyone how happy they are together. Ray was quiet for a moment. Jack, what are you planning? Justice, Ray. I'm planning justice. Saturday night arrived with perfect weather. Clear skies, warm breeze, the kind of evening that makes people believe in happy endings. The Grand View Hotel was lit up like a palace, with luxury cars dropping off guests in evening wear for the Morrison Blackwell wedding. I sat in my car across the street, wearing my best suit and watching the entrance. Ray was beside me, dressed like a bouncer, trying to look respectable, which wasn't far from the truth. You sure they'll show up? Ray asked. They'll show up. Chloe can't resist a party, especially one that makes her feel important, and Matt's stupid enough to think crashing a society wedding makes him look like a big shot. At 9:30, I spotted them. Matt's motorcycle roared into the hotel parking lot, with Chloe riding behind him in a cocktail dress that was way too tight and way too bright. They'd clearly been drinking. There they are, I said, right on schedule. We watched them stumble toward the hotel entrance, Matt Swagger and Chloe giggling like teenagers. The doorman tried to stop them, but Chloe flashed some kind of ID, and they were waved through. How'd she get in? Ray asked. Probably told them she was with the wedding party. Chloe's good at lying when she needs to be. We waited 10 minutes, then followed them inside. The Grand View's ballroom was everything our wedding reception was supposed to be. Crystal chandeliers, white roses, elegant people dancing to a live orchestra. It was beautiful, expensive, and completely wasted on the two idiots who were currently making fools of themselves at the open bar. I spotted them immediately. Matt was arguing with the bartender about something, while Chloe posed for selfies with other people's wedding decorations. Several guests were already staring. This is embarrassing, Ray muttered. That's the point. I walked up to the bar just as Matt was demanding another whiskey. Evening, Matty? Chloe? Lovely party? They both spun around. Chloe's face went white, but Matt just grinned that stupid grin. Well, well, if it isn't the ex-fiancé. Come to crash the party? Actually, I'm here as a guest. The bride's father is one of my clients, but I couldn't help noticing you two were here. Small world. Chloe grabbed Matt's arm. Let's go. This was a mistake. No way, Matt said, puffing out his chest. We've got as much right to be here as anyone. Actually, you don't, I said calmly. This is a private event. You're trespassing. Says who? I pulled out my phone and showed him a text from Patricia Chen. Says the hotel management. They're very concerned about uninvited guests disrupting their events. Matt's grin faltered. You called the cops? I called my lawyer. She called the hotel. They called security. As if on cue, 2 large men in suits appeared behind Matt and Chloe. Hotel security, looking very professional and very serious. "Sir, ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us," one of them said. "This is bullshit," Matt shouted, loud enough for half the ballroom to hear. "We're not doing anything wrong." "You're drunk, you're loud, and you're not invited," I said. "That's 3 things wrong right there." Chloe started crying. "Jack, please, don't do this. We'll leave quietly." "Too late for that, Chloe. You wanted to make a scene. Now you've got one." The security guards moved to escort them out, but Matt pulled away. "Get your hands off me. I'm not going anywhere." He took a swing at one of the guards, missed completely, and stumbled backward into the wedding cake table. The 3-tier cake toppled over, covering Matt in white frosting and pink roses. The ballroom went silent. 200 wedding guests stared at the drunk mechanic covered in cake, standing next to his sobbing girlfriend in her too-tight dress. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced to the crowd, "I'd like you to meet my ex-fiancée and her new boyfriend. They wanted to celebrate their love in style." The bride's father, a distinguished man in his 60s, walked over with a look of disgust. "Mr. Rourke, are these the people you warned us about?" "The very same, Mr. Morrison. I'm sorry they disrupted your daughter's special day." Morrison looked at Matt, who was still dripping cake frosting. "Security, remove these people immediately, and call the police. I want them charged with trespassing." As the guards dragged Matt and Chloe toward the exit, I followed them into the lobby. Other guests came too, curious about the drama. "Jack!" Chloe screamed as the guards held her back. "How could you do this to me?" "I didn't do anything, Chloe. You did this to yourself. You set us up. You planned this whole thing." "I planned nothing. I just knew you well enough to predict what you'd do." Matt, still covered in cake, tried to lunge at me. "You think you're so smart. You think you won." Ray stepped between us, all 6'4" of him. "Easy there, Matty. You're embarrassing yourself enough already." "This isn't over," Matt snarled. "Yeah, it is," I said. "It's been over since the moment you thought you could outsmart me." The police arrived and arrested both of them for trespassing and public intoxication. As they were led away in handcuffs, I handed Chloe an envelope. "What's this?" she asked, voice trembling. "Your final bill, ring payment, wedding expenses, legal fees, and damages for tonight's little performance. Total comes to about $150,000. Her face went ashen. "I can't pay that." "Then I guess you'll be filing for bankruptcy. Hope it was worth it." As the police car drove away with my former fiancée and her boyfriend, the wedding guests began filtering back into the ballroom. Mr. Morrison shook my hand. "Thank you for the warning, Jack, and I'm sorry about what you've been through." "Don't be sorry, sir. Sometimes the trash takes itself out." Ray and I walked out of the hotel into the cool night air. In the distance, sirens faded as the flashing lights disappeared into the city. "So what now?" Ray asked. "Now I go home, open a bottle of good whiskey, and sleep better than I have in months." "What about Chloe?" I thought about that as we walked to our cars. Chloe would spend the night in jail, face bankruptcy proceedings, and probably lose everything she'd tried so hard to keep. Matt would lose his business, his freedom, and eventually her. Chloe will learn that actions have consequences, and consequences cost money. Think she'll try to come back? No. Pride's the only thing she has left, and I just took that away too. Ray grinned. "Remind me never to piss you off. Just don't steal my fiancé, and we'll be fine." I drove home through the quiet city streets, past bars and restaurants where normal people were having normal Saturday nights. When I got to my building, Mrs. Gallagher was waiting in the lobby with a bottle of champagne. "Heard there was some excitement at the Grandview tonight," she said with a twinkle in her eye. "News travels fast." "Honey, I've got friends everywhere. Now come on, let's celebrate properly." We sat in her apartment until 2 in the morning, drinking champagne and talking about life, love, and the importance of choosing your battles wisely. "You did the right thing, Jack," she said as I was leaving. "Some people need to learn the hard way." "I just made sure the lesson stuck." "That's what makes you smart, dear. You didn't just get mad, you got even." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of closure. Chloe's lawyer contacted me twice, first begging for leniency, then threatening countersuits. I forwarded everything to my attorney, who sent back a single line. "See you in court." The bankruptcy filing came through 3 months later. She lost the condo she'd insisted on buying, the car she'd leased in both our names, and most of her savings. Matt's landscaping business folded under the weight of legal fees and lost clients. Word spread fast in our small city. I kept the house we'd planned to share, the one I'd paid for. I turned the spare bedroom into a gym, and the guest room into a study. For the first time in years, the space felt like mine. Work picked up. The promotion I'd been chasing came through, ironically on the same day the wedding was supposed to happen. I celebrated with Ray and a few close friends at a quiet bar downtown. No drama, no accusations, just good company and better whiskey. Chloe tried to reach out once, 6 months later. A handwritten letter arrived in the mail, postmarked from her parents' house in the next state over. She wrote about regret, about how she'd lost herself, and how she hoped I could forgive her someday. I read it once, then burned it in the fireplace. Forgiveness wasn't mine to give anymore, not when she'd never truly asked for it. I started dating again, slowly. Met a woman named Elena at a charity run. She was a pediatric nurse, sharp, funny, and refreshingly direct. On our third date, she asked about the wedding that never was. I told her the story, no sugarcoating. She listened, then said, "You didn't just survive that. You won." Maybe she was right. A year later, I ran into Matt at the hardware store. He looked older, thinner, wearing a faded polo with his new employer's logo. He nodded awkwardly and kept walking. I didn't stop him. There was nothing left to say. Mrs. Gallagher still checks in, still brings cookies on holidays. She calls me her favorite bachelor neighbor. I let her. Sometimes I think about Chloe and Matt, about the life they thought they could steal. I don't feel anger anymore, just a quiet satisfaction. They gambled on deception and lost everything. I gambled on truth and gained my freedom. The best revenge, it turns out, isn't destruction. It's living well while they pay the price they chose. And I'm doing just fine. Monday morning brought a call from Patricia with the final tally of Chloe's legal troubles. "Jack, the hotel is pressing charges for property damage and disruption of business. The cake alone was worth $3,000. Add that to the trespassing charges, and your ex-fiancée is looking at serious legal problems." And the financial situation. She's completely broke. Lost her job, can't make the ring payments, defaulted on the wedding contracts. Her credit score has dropped to the point where she couldn't get approved for a gas station credit card. What about Matt? Worse. The city shut down his business permanently. He owes back taxes, penalties, and fines totaling about $60,000. Plus, the state police found evidence of stolen car parts in his shop. He's looking at felony charges. I felt a deep satisfaction settling in my chest. So, they're both ruined. Financially and legally, yes. But Jack, there's something else. What? Chloe's been trying to contact you through my office. She wants to make a deal. I laughed. What kind of deal could she possibly offer? She says she has information about Matt's illegal activities that could help the prosecution. In exchange, she wants you to drop the civil suits. Tell her I'm not interested. She made her bed, now she can lie in it. After I hung up with Patricia, I drove to Flanagan's to meet Ray for lunch. The place was busier than usual, filled with construction workers and office people grabbing quick meals. "So, it's really over?" Ray asked, sliding a beer across the table. "It's over. Chloe and Matt are both facing criminal charges, bankruptcy, and social humiliation. They won't be bothering anyone for a long time. And you? How are you holding up?" I thought about that question. 3 weeks ago, I'd been planning a wedding, looking forward to a future with someone I thought I loved. Now that future was gone, replaced by something cleaner and more honest. I'm good, Ray. Better than good. I feel like I've been carrying around dead weight for years, and someone finally cut me loose. No regrets? About Chloe? None. About the money? None. About destroying 2 people who tried to destroy me? Definitely none. Ray raised his beer. To justice served cold. Actually, I prefer it hot. More satisfying that way. We drank to that, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace with my choices. That afternoon, I decided to take a drive past Matt's old garage, just to see how the other half was living. The place was a disaster. Windows boarded up, closed by order of the city signs everywhere, and what looked like a family of raccoons living in the office. As I was driving away, I saw a familiar figure walking down the street carrying a suitcase. Chloe, looking like she hadn't slept in days, trudging toward the bus station. I pulled over and rolled down my window. Going somewhere? She looked up, and I was shocked by how much she'd changed. The confident, chaotic woman I'd known was gone, replaced by someone who looked defeated and desperate. Back to my parents' house in Ohio, at least until I figure out what to do next. What about Matt? What about him? He's in jail, Jack. Felony charges. His lawyer says he'll probably do 2 to 5 years. And you're running away. I'm starting over. Something you made sure I'd have to do. I could have felt sorry for her. Could have offered help, or forgiveness, or some kind of reconciliation. But then I remembered the text message that started all this, and the feeling passed. Chloe, let me ask you something. If Matt hadn't gotten arrested, if his business hadn't been shut down, if everything had worked out the way you planned, would you have any regrets about what you did to me? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. I do. You'd be laughing about it, telling your friends how you traded up from the boring insurance guy to the exciting bad boy. You'd be posting pictures on Instagram with captions about following your heart and living authentically. That's not true. It is true, and that's why I don't feel sorry for you now. I put the car in drive, then stopped and looked back at her. Chloe, you said you wanted to keep the ring for the future. Well, this is your future. Hope it's everything you dreamed it would be. I drove away without looking back. That evening, I was home making dinner when Mrs. Gallagher knocked on my door with a plate of cookies and the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Jack, dear, I have news. Good news, I hope. The best. I just got off the phone with my friend Janet at the courthouse. Apparently, your little adventure at the hotel made quite an impression on some important people. What do you mean? Mr. Morrison, the bride's father? He owns Morrison Security, one of the biggest private investigation firms in the state. He was so impressed with how you handled that situation that he wants to offer you a job. I stared at her. A job? Senior investigator, specializing in fraud and corporate security. Twice your current salary, full benefits, and a chance to do what you're obviously very good at. How do you know all this? Mrs. Gallagher winked. Honey, I've been the building gossip for 40 years. I know everything. The next morning, I called Morrison Security and spoke with Mr. Morrison himself. The job was everything Mrs. Gallagher had promised. Challenging work, excellent pay, and the chance to use my skills for something more meaningful than insurance claims. Mr. Rourke, I've seen a lot of investigators over the years, but I've never seen anyone handle a difficult situation with such precision and restraint. You turned a potential disaster into a teachable moment. I just made sure the right people face the right consequences. Exactly. That's what we do here. We find the truth and make sure it matters. I accepted the job on the spot. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new office overlooking the city, working on a case involving corporate embezzlement. My assistant knocked and told me there was someone to see me. It was Ray, carrying a newspaper and grinning like an idiot. Jack, you've got to see this. He handed me the local paper, folded open to the crime section. The headline read, Local Woman Sentenced for Fraud Scheme. The article described how Chloe Matthews, formerly of this city, had been arrested in Ohio for running a fake charity scam. She'd been collecting donations for hurricane victims and keeping the money for herself. She got 18 months, Ray said. Apparently, this wasn't her first time trying something like this. I read the article twice, feeling a mixture of vindication and sadness. Chloe hadn't learned anything from our experience. She'd just found new people to victimize. What about Matt? Still in prison, got the full 5 years. Word is he's not handling it well. I folded the newspaper and handed it back to Ray. Some people never learn, but some people do. Look at you. New job, new life, new attitude. You came out of this better than you went in. He was right. The last 6 months had been the best of my life. Meaningful work, financial security, and the peace of mind that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life throws at you. Ray, let me ask you something. Do you think I was too hard on them? Too hard? Jack, they tried to steal your life savings and humiliate you publicly. You just made sure they faced the consequences of their actions. That's not revenge, that's justice. What's the difference? Revenge is about hurting people because they hurt you. Justice is about making sure people pay the price for their choices. You didn't destroy Chloe and Matt. They destroyed themselves. You just made sure they couldn't take you down with them. That night, I sat on my balcony overlooking the city, drinking good whiskey and thinking about the strange turns life can take. A year ago, I'd been engaged to a woman who was planning to betray me. Now I was free, successful, and genuinely happy for the first time in years. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, I wondered if it might be Chloe trying to contact me from prison. But when I opened it, I saw something much better. It was from Sarah Chen, Patricia's younger sister, whom I'd met at a dinner party last month. Smart, funny, successful in her own right, and completely drama-free. Hi, Jack. Still on for dinner Thursday? I found a great new restaurant downtown. I typed back, absolutely, looking forward to it. As I hit send, I realized something important. I wasn't just moving on from Chloe. I was moving towards something better, something real. The next morning, Mrs. Gallagher stopped by with coffee and her usual gossip. Jack, I heard about your dinner date with that lovely Chen girl. News really does travel fast around here. Honey, when you've lived as long as I have, you learn to spot the good ones. That girl's got class, intelligence, and most importantly, she's got her own money. No chaos, no drama, no surprises. Sounds perfect. It does, doesn't it? You know what I always say, the best revenge is living well. I thought about that as I got ready for work. Chloe was in prison, Matt was in prison, and I was about to start a new chapter with someone who actually deserved my time and attention. Mrs. G, I think you're right, but sometimes the best revenge is just making sure the bad guys lose, she laughed. Honey, in your case, it's both. As I walked to my car, I passed the spot where Chloe had stood with her suitcase 6 months ago, looking defeated and desperate. Now it was just another corner in a city full of possibilities. I'd learned something important from this whole experience. You can't control what other people do to you, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to fight back intelligently. I chose to fight back, and I won. Some people call it revenge. I call it cleaning house. Let the chaos pay the bill.